Welcome, everyone. We're gonna give folks a few minutes to enter, and then we'll be started shortly. All right, it looks like we're leveling off. So why don't we get started? Welcome, everyone. This is the third reading in the Kitchen Table Poetry Series. It is a first. We have our first partner power couple, poetry power couple, who I'll introduce to you in a second. So our lineup today is Grisel Acosta, Tommye Blount, and Vincent Toro. As you can probably tell from Grisel and Vincent being in the same square, they are a partnership. We appreciate you spending some of your Sunday afternoon with us, and I hope that everyone out there is staying safe and healthy mentally and physically as we continue to live through this pandemic and as we head into the teeth of election season. I'm going to let our poets go for a second and just do a couple housekeeping notes before we hop into the poems. As you know, I'm trying to keep this space as non-commercial as possible, but if you love poetry, I think it's incumbent on you to support poets. To that end, during the reading, I'll throw the most recent book from each of the poets in the chat, and I hope you'll support these folks if you're so inclined. Also, to keep the lights on here, I'm very thankful for the sponsorship of the Solstice MFA program of Manor College. I've been teaching at this low residency Masters of Creative Writing program for nearly a decade, and it's my poetry home away from home, filled with diverse, welcoming people and challenging ideas. If you're looking to spend a couple years focused on your writing while also keeping your day job, I encourage you to check us out. We have a virtual open house next week, and more information about that is available on the internet. All right, let's get into some poems. I'm going to start off with a Martina Spada poem, and this poem spoke to me because it reminded me of the invisible, often unrecognized labor that keeps our world afloat. Amber Roseborough will interpret the poem into ASL, as she will do for all the poems. Amber, we're very thankful to have you today. Thank you. Who burns for the perfection of paper? At 16, I worked after high school hours at a printing plant that manufactured legal pads. Yellow paper stacked 7 feet high and leaning as I slipped cardboard between the pages, then brushed red glue up and down the stack. No gloves, fingertips required for the perfection of paper, smoothing the exact rectangle. Sluggish by 9 p.m., the hands would slide along suddenly sharp paper and gather slits thinner than the crevices of the skin, hidden. Then the glue would sting, hands oozing till both palms burned at the punch clock. 10 years later, in law school, I knew that every legal pad was glued with the sting of hidden cuts, that every open law book was a pair of hands upturned and burning. All right, first up, currently in Fort Lee, New Jersey, we have Grisel Acosta. Welcome, Grisel.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Ian. And I'm really, really excited to be reading. I am going to start with a few poems by other poets. And the first one that I'm going to start with is by Reina J. Leon. And this is from her book, Boogeyman Dawn. And the poem is called To Fall to Sleep Then Wake. And you'll notice that all of these poems have a theme that is related to current times. So, Reina J. Leon, to fall to sleep, then to wake. There are days when I do not wish to write a word. Just stay in bed and dream of things I will not remember. So that is her poem. And I have found myself feeling that way quite a bit these days. So another poem that I feel is has connected themes is by Aracelis Germain. And this one is from, she has many great books, but it's from her book called Peace. And this one is called Ode to the Brain. The day we got the news, my lungs fell down 3 flights of stairs. My heart, its bird was stole away and rid of all its tambourines. I cannot know where you will go, or when, or if I'll be at all, but I wish some heaven for us, Azucena and some mustard fields, glory of the mustard moon, some heaven strong as machete or axe, strike through the thick box of these days of endless, hazy news where your skull rides the brain like a wide umbrella, and the brain is a parrot or an angel. Yes, no less an angel, even with the rock, even with the jungle growing still. Bless the brain, it's trying, it's sturdy, it's faithful, gleaming back. And the last poem that I'm going to read by another poet is by Yesenia Montilla. She has a new book coming out soon, but this is from her book called The Pink Box, which is excellent. And this one is sort of related to the previous two. It really makes me think of all of the neoliberal capitalists who really just still insist on trying to make money while our bridges fall apart and a pandemic is running wide. So this is called the clothing and shoe drop box. The clothing and shoe drop box that resides on the corner of Madison and 57th is full of beautiful baubles. I once saw an evening purse that resembled a dragonfly encrusted in jewels. Not even the Sultan of Brunei could have imagined. Last spring, I found a brand new lipstick, the label, red like a burning Jesus or Vermillionaire. I have found silverware with handles of bamboo, a shawl of gray fox, and a pair of platforms from 1974, my birth year. Lucite healed with turquoise water and goldfish once whirling about. What use are these to anybody? What will I wear when my mortgage does not get paid? How will I beg on the subway? With crimson lips, a pet rat. My shoes, 2 goldfish poets who read Eliot and Pound, pointing out all the people almost like me, apparitions in a crowd. Okay, and then I don't know why I chose to follow those amazing poets who are my heroes, but I am going to follow them now with a few poems of my own. And this poem I wrote a while back, and actually I feel like it really connects to the new Rada Blank film on Netflix. So here it is. Time to kill the woman over 40. She will already be dead, oftentimes. The mother who died giving birth to a teen who keeps her photo in a heart-shaped box under the bed. The wife who died of cancer so we can see her husband mourn for her for a tight 90. The Nana who left an inheritance to her litigious offspring. A ghost who haunts new homeowners, attempting to soothe her longing for a lost, unrequited love. But if she is alive, thriving at her upstart, excited about her new chapter at 50, mentoring the young with a kind heart and words, we will never know, because she must be killed. She will be blown to pieces in an explosion after devoting herself to an English spy. She will have her neck broken, succumbing to her husband's mafia debts, and the actress who plays her will have her head chopped off again by trolls and Twitter bots, asking why such an old actress was bossing an actor of her same age on screen. She will die at the hands of a serial killer, and the audience will groan at the sight of her cellulite on the autopsy table. She will die after convincing her husband to support their son's dream, and we will never learn if she had a dream of her own. But what of the bitches who live? We must hate them and wish them dead. These harridans will strut around their Spanx foundations and fitted suits, act like they own DC, even though they have no children. Women over 40 without children can't lead. These scumbags in aerosols who are just waiting for their impending AARP discounts like entitled primordial muck will attempt to advise their trainees only to be met with looks from younger Google execs who say, why was this person even cast in this story? If they are not dead, we must wish them dead. They will be evil stepmothers lurking in bushes, waiting to trick naive heiresses, stab them with a sword. They will be insane zombies kept in a sealed tank, waiting to chew your gray matter off with their heads. They will be pathetic, over-tanned, oversexed swingers, just waiting to get their paws on your under 30, still lubricated skin, drown them in the sea. They will be bookish nerds planning an elaborate scheme to trap you via a snowfall accident, imprisoning you in their home, pretending to mother you. Kill them with your bare hands. But mainly, they will just be absent, gone, not written at all, dead before the story even starts. And let's face it, who really misses something or someone they never knew at all? And I will end with one last poem, and this is about spending an afternoon around the kitchen table with my grandmother. The astronomical vision of the Tairona Kogi entered my kitchen when I was 10 years old. Mid-discussion with my brother Louis regarding the first space shuttle flight, my abuela, Papi's mother, happened to be visiting, and she listened as he explained our Earth's orbit round the fire of the sun. My grandmother became antsy, not her usual cool self, interjected a description of the cosmos that envisioned the Earth as Venus, hurling stars around us, their center point, a shell surrounding it all. I felt embarrassed for my grandmother, a woman known for her fierce wisdom. How could she make this mistake, I thought. Lou later whispered, she doesn't have an education. It took me 25 years of schooling to discover, recover, uncover Abuela's cosmology, rooted in the vision of the Tairona Indian, illustrated as an egg by the Kogi. For a moment, I felt embarrassed at my early assumptions, wished I could go back and ask better questions. But now, I realize Abuela knew educating her son, my papi, meant educating his daughter and educating whomever else I may encounter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The first poem of yours that you read had me constantly cracking up. Little gallows humor, but women over 40 without children can't lead. It's a sad state of affairs. And the Twitter bot line, which hit a little too close to home too. Thank you so much, Grisel. I appreciate it. We'll be back in your kitchen shortly. But for now, we have Tommye Blount. Is it Nehi, Michigan? Is that it? Which is
Novi.
Novi, sorry.
Yeah.
Novi, Michigan.
I'm so uncoordinated. I have to
which is close to Detroit. If you don't mention a Detroit poet is from Detroit, you get in a lot of trouble. So I have done my due diligence. Tommye Blount, everyone.
Thank you, Iain. Grisel, I'm so happy you wrote a poem after a 40-year-old version. I freaking love that movie. I love Rada Blank. I think it's a masterpiece. Yeah, so for my set, I'm going to be reading 3 poems by 3 other poets first, and then I'm going to read 3, maybe 4 poems of mine. 2 of these poets I'm going to read have Detroit roots. And I thought for this Sunday, for my, Sunday, I thought I'd pick the theme of family because I've been thinking a lot about my family and the connections within family, particularly around grief and how being connected by grief within a family isn't always a terrible thing. Sometimes it's a vital thing that allows one to want to live more. This first poem is from the poet Robert Fanning, and it's from his book, Our Sudden Museum. Staying the night. I want to touch everything she touched yesterday. My fingers lingering on her shelves and counter. I flip through the paperback left half read on the nightstand and held the crumpled yellow hand towel near her bathroom sink, breathe in the dust and dander of our apartment air. My wife sifts a pile of unpaid bills, lifts a framed photo, reads an inscription on a birthday card. This home's a sudden museum. From the living room, I hear our daughter knock a glass thing over and giggle. I move to save the breakables from wreckage, then remember, nothing can now be ruined. We're the guests of someone gone. From a stack of papers, I pull some brief note she wrote, marvel at her slight, precise lettering. On her fridge shelf, a tub of leftover spaghetti, an unfinished sandwich. In a drawer, the perishables sweat, a new head of lettuce, a few pieces of fresh fruit. I choose to eat the peach she chose from the grocery store's produce row, not knowing it would outlive her. Later, before going to sleep in her bed, I see a life next to the kitchen sink, a still life. One white bowl upside down, one fork, one knife, and beside the faucet, her unwashed drinking glass. Lifting the glass, I hope to see her lipstick's usual pink wedge, scour for a fingerprint, some smudge. I fill it half full with water, cover the rim with my lips, turn it in a circle, slowly. This is how I kiss my sister goodbye. So this next poet is very important person to me. She was my teacher, and then eventually my friend, and then now my editor. So I'm going to be reading a poem from Martha Rhodes, her book, The Thin Wall. And the poem starts with the first line, so it's titled after the first line of the poem. I do not want to finish my potato, but feel guilty not to finish my potato. Many died for lack of potatoes, but I don't want it. That potato mushed on my plate, unsalted and dry. I wish it was an orange potato, sweet, pretty, brightly hopeful. But this one's white or really yellow. I've asked my mother, why always potatoes? Can't we sometimes have rice or turnips? You know how your father loves his potatoes. But he's gone, mother, gone. He's been gone for months. He'll be back and he'll smell the potatoes as he comes through that door. So happy to return to a plate of potatoes. Just eat your potato. Be thankful you're not starving. I'm thankful I am that I'm not starving, but I do not want this goddamn potato. Fathers, chairs, empty, as it will be tomorrow. So this next poet also has a Detroit connection. Kavita Cand Paul, and I'm going to be reading from her book, Folding a River, which came out some years ago. It's like her first and only book, and it is magnificent. Sweetness. To behold an orange promises an orchard all year long. Its soft covering falls in two scented hemispheres. This round jubilance keeps its contents of ocean and tide quiet, still. Once my uncle wrestled free an infant's brain that resisted separation during autopsy. I was there to record organ weights. It took 2 men, 4 hands. Stubborn son of a bitch, they agreed. Peeling back a continent of bone. The idiot thing was still smiling when they dropped the halves on the scale. I want to weigh memory in my palms like a crate of clementines. Nature remembers itself through sweetness, the repetition of orchards that bring themselves back from season to succulent season. There are moments not meant to be remembered. Some minds are too small to carry the sweetness of this world. So now I'm going to be reading from my book, Fantasia for the Man in Blue. Yeah, maybe I can get 4 poems. Maybe. Icarus does the dishes. It leaves a mark on me when I fall in my father's kitchen. Only a few days it's been of lifting him up from one place, then putting him down somewhere else, then driving to work for the late shift while a nurse looks after him for 5 hours, 3 times a week, all we can afford. There is no choice sometimes. I have to leave him alone. I ignore the soreness of the bruise taking shape on my ass because these dishes won't clean themselves and father hasn't had his bath. It embarrasses us, especially the rolling back of his foreskin, the veins, tiny stitches on the inside of a minotaur's mask. So I let him watch that part while I look away. He does not see me this way, on the floor. I'm 25 and agile. It is no accident, but a tantrum. I throw the dishes. All around me, shards, a constellation, stars for which I have no names. We are lost. What have I done? I'm thinking now, and telling the hospital I can do this. I can manage just fine. In the next room, through the wall, he asks me if I'm okay, if I need him to do anything. Please die, I whisper, then sweep the stars, turn back toward the sun, soaking in the gray water. Portrait of my father. Clothing consisted of blue corduroy slippers, blue and white striped boxer shorts, blue champion sweatpants, gray diabetic socks, gray thermal shirt. Black with shocks of gray, there was a mustache and a beard. The scalp hair was curly and black with shocks of gray. White sclerae around brown irides, the eyes. Around the right eye, a contusion. The head was normal cephalic, dentition was natural, with several bottom teeth missing. There were no masses discernible in the neck. Larynx was in the midline. Thorax was asymmetrical, unremarkable. The external genitalia were those of a normal adult uncircumcised male. A 1-inch circular scar was present on the right hip. There was a 9-inch curvilinear surgical scar on the left upper abdomen. Measured at 5 feet 11 inches in length and weighed at 139 pounds. The body was that of a developed Black male, appearing about the recorded age of 56 years. The body was cool, rigor mortis long since waned. I'm gonna have some water. Phonophobia and phonophobia is the fear of like loud, sudden noises. I actually have that fear, that phobia, but this phobia is about something else. Body cam footage, the crackle and chirp of it anyway. I'm within earshot. I know what is about to happen again. Click the news site's window close. Open my window to geese barking a path across the man-made pond. The pond plopped near a quiet suburban lane. One flops over, pops up with a spray of grass in its beak. It turns its bearded head away to the road's new pitch. An ice cream truck blares the white noise of an old American song. The tune whips the air in my mouth into vanilla soft serve. Once, back in Detroit, my brother sent me out to shout for the Mr. Softy truck. 2 cones. So I said, little brother, where's the other cone? You should have 2. He always starts, and upon hearing the beat, I chime in with, so then I said, I had 2, but yours went splat on the ground. I just started slurping away on the other cone. None of this ever truly rings a bell for me. I never remember, yet want to remember. So I rattle off the learned script so that he can laugh. Then I can laugh harder, which makes him laugh even harder until we both bark and crack up with tears streaming down our faces. We are so happy then. The guffaws, the chuckles, just one big snicker. We can't stop laughing. We laugh until we can't breathe. You'd think we are dying. And this will be my last poem. The pool. I dared look at nothing except the horizon line, where the russet tone of my brother's ankle met the pale tone of his well-paced heel. His flip-flops smacked the wet tiles, though they barely rippled the puddles that flowed toward the unseen pool and its Vingari blue. I smelled it. It burned my chest the second I let my gaze break from my brother to the lather broken in a naked man's hands. It could have been a toy, that small, I mean, a little blue boat capsized in his hand, godlike, as if it was nothing, and I was nothing to hide from. I wished he would get on with it, destroy this little vessel, a storm to wash me, a disturbance in the way a still body of water so easily gives up its stillness for what slips from the hands of a bad yet careful boy by accident, or is it on purpose, a thing meant to be hidden or lost so as not to be bothered with. But my brother, unlike me, did not want to lose me. My eyes trained back down on his heel, his grip a little tighter, my fingers already burning blue. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommye. That was the emotional range and the tones the range of tones were amazing. Stars for which I have no names, we are lost, that blew me away. Could you, before you go, could you, I didn't catch the name of I think it was the third poet.
Oh, Kavita.
Kavita, yeah.
Kavita Kanpal.
Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Her line, small, some minds are too small for the sweetness of the world.
Yes.
Also hit a little too close to home these days.
The whole book is fire.
All right, I'll definitely check it out. Thank you. All right, we're going back to Fort Lee. Vincent Toro.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So,
thank you.
First, Tommye, I love your reading. I really enjoyed Tommye's reading, so I just want to shout you out. Iain, I'm glad that you read a poem by Martina Espada, because the other poets that I'm going to read, I'm doing a Boricua poet theme thing. So Martina Espada is a very well-known Puerto Rican poet, but you know, a lot of Puerto Rican poets are underrepresented in the U.S. poetic landscape, and island poets even less so. So I want to read two island poets. The first is the poet Olga Noya, and I really love this poem, and I think it's kind of connected to one of the poems that Grisel read. Unplanned, actually. It's called I Regret Having to Contradict My Elders. I always heard my elders say that happiness is something for the young. Youth and happiness went hand in hand in all their plans and warnings. They never mentioned the pain of being just half made, and no foundation laid, no laid seed as well. They never mentioned the fear of failure, that dread of being hit, of abandonment, whenever rocks were thrown and stabbed a heart that's very childlike still. They didn't mention so many things that, on tearing down the protective walls of the fraternal house in matrimony, I suffered in countless labyrinths. They didn't mention that living the years like someone drinking water in the desert is the deepest of joys, the only one which lasts. They did not mention the intimacy of a garden you cultivate alone. They didn't mention how I have laughed quite heartily on my return from disillusionment and life humiliation. So I don't understand why they say and sing too that youth is happiness. I think that people who are young, as I once was, are the more unhappy ones. They write poems of the most heart-wrenching love and Freudian stories of dubious authenticity. They don't know how to be alone. Some console themselves with idealistic lamentations of a political sort. They are too preoccupied with making the world fit a model to see it as it is. That's why it seems to me strange and highly suspect to say that youth is happiness, as if only innocence and idealism were capable of joy, as if only deceptive illusion were capable of bliss. I am seriously suspicious of such postulates. I see them behind them the idea, I can't avoid it, that the world is evil, sinful and imperfect. I see behind them the idea, the nostalgia of a paradise lost. It puts its nose in everywhere. I sometimes even find it in my soup. All that I really want to say is that one feels so much happier at 50 than at 20. Simply put, you no longer take yourself so seriously and are grateful to be still alive. What's more, solitude becomes a habit. And this other poem I'm going to read from an island Puerto Rican poet is from actually a man who's considered like, you know, one of the like laureates of like Puerto Rican poetry legacy. His name is Juan Antonio Correger, and this poem I think is like my life's meaning. It's called, the poem titled Puerto Rican on the Moon, and it's written in the decima form, which is also used in music to write plena music, plena songs. Puerto Rican on the Moon. On swells that the sea tides bring to gently kiss its shoreline, from Aguadia's fair climate, a woman sets off to sing, not just in New York, to string a long lament and then die. I was born child of that cry, like creature wild in the rain, and live in the wait to regain everything lost as spy. Across the blue, which became more dull the more miles he flew, toward that city closer drew a peasant from Las Marias. In his voice, his hope declared as he vowed from long day to return. But first came my birthing's turn, and after toil without slack, he just never made it back, gave out in a plant's daily churn. I am the child of a tear, the offspring of honest sweat, and grandpa's was soul love met with joy, my own joy's delight. To keep the memory in sight of that cup of wail and tear, like some dream in the song is spoken of an isle in dreams I've been. For I am a Puerto Rican, without a thing but unbroken. And the blowhard that denies it best gingerly step and beware, lest in a hallway somewhere he pay the insult belies it. For so rumor certifies it, it's all the St. Clair de Lune shines on hill, sea, and lagoon. And so I shout to the nave's din, I'd still be Puerto Rican, even if born on the moon. Yeah, that's my theme right there. That's my theme music. And this one is from my book, Tertulia, and it's called Fox and Foghorn. I haven't read this one yet since the book came out, but I'm reading it because I think it also expresses how I feel when I watch the pundits talk about the election. Ima. It's called Fox and Foghorn after Tim Seibel. Beware of bunnies dressed in drag. Beware of samurai sword-wielding terrapins. Watch for anvils descending from above like secret telegrams. Here, rodents in diapers pirouette through pantries, teasing felines permutated into accordions played by hungry mutts in moonlit piazzas. Beware of chattering tea kettles and precocious swine slinging oranges and old leather shoes. Here, nothing is as deadly as a subversive ironing board blasted like a bazooka into rubber band torsos. Watch for the ricochet of flying fruit, steer clear of Acme merchandise fated to fall apart faster than a celebrity marriage. Here we are raised cell by smarmy hens determined to deceive us, with mountains disguised as open highways meant to flatten faces, reinflated with a bicycle pump stashed in overalls. Beware of blueberry pies baked with TNT, served to singing ducks in top hats. Do not take offense to being blown to bits by exploding cigars, for in the next frame, we return to the scene spotless and chasing a sarcastic woodpecker wearing a gorilla suit into a rabbit hole. Never eat ham sandwiches made by pistol-toting horses. Whenever bearded feet shove a shotgun in your eye, do not hesitate to tie the barrels into a pretty bow. Here, hazards come in adorable packages. Furniture has a social life, fish singing three-part harmony, their watercolor habitat hilarious, two-dimensional and sentient. Here, the supreme survival tool is a boundless fondness for the senseless. And this one, I'm only going to say, before I read it, that I want to remind everyone, I'm sorry to kill your Sunday afternoon buzz, but there are still children in cages at the border. And that's why I'm reading this poem. It's called Areto for the Shipwrecked Dreamcatcher. Illegal my eyes, iris of unfertilized plateaus, unforgiven for searching into a dialect with no global market value. Illegal my argo, I cannot just wade out into neutral lakes. I cannot say, cannot evade the plexus that marks me contraband. When I feed above oars you crave, you illegal me, forge deeds, uproot me, hire me to manage the waste. Illegal my soul, when your arsons drag me to your doorstep. Illegal my faith, broadcast me an illegal substance, refuse me lodging if I refuse to be free labor. Allege me vermin, toxin, zombify all kin who return enraged by your tombopolis. Illegal my relics, might confiscate my liver. Now even my scars must be registered. Illegal my pyres, enkindled by your roach pandemics. Illegal the bronze of my cutis. If I split walnuts with the neighbors, somehow it's lascivious. Illegal my parchments, my palms, my Corabantic time signatures. Only my silence is welcome. Only my silence is suspect. And this one I'm reading, I actually wrote this for my wife, but I'm reading it because we are also watching like The Handmaid's Tale play out in real life in the Supreme Court hearings. And so this poem's called Punk Ovad for Hardcore Chica, but it's also a response to a poem written by Pablo Neruda called I Like for You to Be Still, where he's telling his lover that he wants her to be quiet. So this is called Punk Ovad for Hardcore Chica. I like for you to be clamorous. It is as though you were a stack of Marshall amps in a concert hall. My listless mind is quickened by your dulcet caterwauls. It seems as though your irises radiate as filtered fresnels, rousing me from a disquiet repose. You do not emerge from me. You emerge sovereign from your own collaged cocoon of glitter and leather jackets. Why would I ever want you still and distant? For I tingle when you flutter swirl, composing etudes out of cabaret camp and critical race theory. I do not want you absent and Stepford amenable, or remote like an ingenue with clenched lip and heart awaiting rescue. I want you as you are, as boisterous as the campus sitting. When I talk to you, do not be silent. Silence me with the B-side bravado of your Jello Biafra badinage. Suffocate me with the voltage of your steel-toed boots, your unbridled scrutiny of gender inequality. I like for you to be blustering, unapologetic, in a buoyant tempest of community projects and brandy-infused mosh pits. No, you are not like my soul. You are like your soul, the cramps blasting through an Argento giallo populated by Iraqi freaks. I like for you to be zoetic. It is as though you are nightclub subwoofers demolishing every sham throne with your meticulous thunder. I like for you to be not as I like, but as you like. All rose skull ink cavorting through beer-soaked dance halls, rambunctious and as an archangel blue cat, the convivial grande dame of doing the time warp at the end of the world fiesta. It is as though you were amaranthine, and one blustering word from you, one X-ray smile is not enough. And I'm going to end with a new one. So this is called Pero, and it's the anaphora in the poem is Pero like, which is like it's a phrase that like New Yorkers use excessively as punctuation. I'm going to try a new piece out on you to end, close out. And thank everyone for listening. Thank you, Iain, for having us. Thank you, Tommye, for reading. Pero like Dykeman Street late night con ghetto confession, pero like loteria cards used as second form of identification, pero like vegan picadillo and non-GMO sancocho seasoned with queer electro clash bounce, pero like bachata blended with trip hop, pero Paco de Lucha's 18 fingers might not be Latinx, pero they bleed Morocco and the Canary Islands onto his fretboard like two Converse All-Stars, one green and one blue, pero like Titi from Kingsbridge and Data from Cibao, who likes his sushi con mambo, pero like Raul Julia owning Petruchio, pero like panaderias that host weekly meetings of the independentistas, pero like Turkish psych rock y Brunilda Ruiz's first plie hoisting jibaros, pero like Lolita Lebron, pero like Tembleque, pero like barbecue pits in La Perla, pero like my namesake whose trompo dropped 1 month before I kicked up into this joint. Pero like this cat I know works for Big Pharma and calls mandatory minimums essential. Pero like, oye, the family restaurant rots on an old king field while the governor gifts the beaches to his friends in Martha's Vineyard. Pero like, how's that even a thing? Pero like, Kelleher builds pianoles. Pero like, Roseo tweets and busterias stirred with cheap shots during work hours. Pero like, Brock blockchains up the Guayacans with his nasty capris and faux swagger. Pero like, the people were all like, pa fuera with all them diablos. Pero yo, now Highway 18 is a sea filled with gorillos of rock beauties, engraving frat tremors with their cannabis hatchlings. Pero like, they can horse trade the coast, pero ain't no one leaving. Pero like, we don't even know how to say goodbye. Pero like, we're not scared of it or anything, pero it just isn't our thing, tú sabes. Pero because like, we don't do departure. Ain't one for getting gone, not about no absenteeism, pero like, it's just a coffee beach break. Pero muchacho is holding the spot for us, pero like, they can hold a spot for you too if you really want, pero you gotta be ready to share, bueno. Pero like, how many hurricanes we got to spin into legendary club tracks, pero like, the swindle muck piles up like a Staten Island waste dump, like there's only so many plagues of boca can swill before the tongue goes numb. Pero like, yo no creo que what really burns these leeches is they've been shipping the devastation first class to our verandas for like a Zeta second or 30. Pero like, as you can see right here, we still laughing up in here anyways, no? Thank you.
They were like, wow, that was awesome. And that the moment, like, I wish all my audiences looked at me as you two look at each other when you're reading poems. That was some of the most beautiful stuff we've seen. I want you as you are. That line really struck me. It's a great antidote to that Neruda poem. All right, I'm going to share one more poem, and I just have a couple quick programming notes. Our next reading will actually be the third Sunday in December. We're going to take November off, so I hope to see you in 2 months. Between now and then, make sure you vote. On October 24th, when the New York polls open, this one is going to get put in one of those collection boxes. And so big thanks to all of you for spending this hour with us. Thanks to Grisel, Tommye, and Vincent, as well as to Amber for interpreting. You'll have one more chance to see them before we go. I'll bring them back. But I want to send you off with a Sunday-inspired Rita Dove poem. Sunday Greens. She wants to hear wine pouring. She wants to taste change. She wants pride to roar through the kitchen till it shines like straw. She wants lean to replace tradition. Ham knocks in the pot, nothing but bones, each with its bracelet of flesh. The house stinks like a zoo in summer, while upstairs her man sleeps on. Robe slung over her arm and the cradled hymnal, she pauses, remembers her mother in a slip, lost in blues, and those collards, wild-eared, singing. Thank you. Let's bring all the poets back so you can wish them goodbye. Thank you to them.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you for
Vincent
coming.
and Grisel, y'all are, yeah.
And can I say thank you to Amber because
Yes.
wow, to follow Vincent's lightning speed reading,
Yeah.
amazing.
Amber is
It was
good.
hard for her money. That was amazing. Yeah, thank you everyone. It was great to see into your kitchens. Thank you for sharing them with us. Thank you for sharing your lives and your talent with us. And everyone, I hope you'll come back in a couple months. And everyone have a great Sunday. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for coming.
Tommye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.